let's examine now the deep healing process of looking inside the unconscious mind-body to heal. Something that Dr. John Sarno, the best-selling author of The Mind-Body Prescription, the amazing surgeon over at NYU Medical and professor at NYU, what he says is this. He says, the purpose of physical manifestation of tension is to deceive. It is the brain's decision to feel tense. I call the brain the ego. It is a defense mechanism to divert attention to the body to avoid confrontation of unconscious repressed feelings of anger and rage. If you can begin to assimilate this, absorb it within, and use it as your directive for your healing process, you will have an amazing experience of removing all of those issues that may have been haunting you most of your life, the pains, the limitations, the weaknesses. But remember, the ego has a motto: don't look within. And it uses the pain in the body to divert your attention, because now you try and deal with it strictly at a physical level. How do I get rid of the pain? How do I deal with this? And you never go and examine the underlying influence that predisposed you to that state, the lifestyle choices you made that perpetuated that state. This is the deep healing that's necessary for you to be able to shift, heal, and empower yourself. So take a moment now. Please, begin now. Decide to accept responsibility for your current condition. Don't blame it on a germ or a bacteria or someone else around you or whatever is going around that everybody is getting. No. No blame. Responsibility. How did you predispose yourself? How did you weaken yourself? What did you do to throw yourself out of balance to be susceptible to having that germ, that virus, that illness, that disease take hold? Because in our body right now, we have cancerous cells, we have viruses, we've got bacteria, they're all inside the body. That's the nature of our system. But it's not until the immune system shuts down that all of a sudden those can then take over and now dominate the healthy cells, dominate the wellness, and cause the illness, the pain, and the suffering. Are you willing to right now say, I am responsible for the condition that I am in? I will look within and examine what is deep inside me that predisposed me to this situation. Now, does that mean you don't get medical help for those situations? No, it doesn't. It means you complement the work you're doing with your medical doctor by then working with a therapist who understands quantum embodiment, who can then take you back to look at the underlying causes to remove them there. We don't want you to be in pain, but we don't want you to then live in a state of numbness for the rest of your life, thinking that you're a victim to this or that. You are powerful. The mind has so much power to heal. The brain can rewire itself through neurogenesis. It's unbelievable how we can regenerate health in our body if we have a healthy mindset. When the subconscious and unconscious minds are controlled by the ego, they will use its condition to control and get what it believes it's missing. You become a special victim. The ego will intentionally forget it has done this and deny it has ever had, blaming something external as the reasons for its predicament. Don't look within is this motto. Look outside you for an external answer to your internal difficulty. You have to have great determination, conviction that you know that you are consciousness. Everything is consciousness, different levels of condensed consciousness, just like ice and water and clouds. It's all H2O. It's at different levels of states of itself. The body is condensed consciousness. The emotions is like a flowing consciousness. And the mind is a very ethereal consciousness. But it's all consciousness. Or, as Einstein says, everything is space or condensed space. And that one field of existence and consciousness, of life, whatever you want to call it, is something which surrounds us all, which creates everything, and from where everything dissolves back into. There are other places and times I talk about this in a lot more detail, but I just want you to understand that whatever is happening, it's happening in your consciousness, your perception, your awareness, and therefore we have to look at the intricacies of how it has created this tapestry to create the problems that you have. And when we begin to understand this, 99% of all thoughts happen below the surface of awareness. Things go so quickly, we don't even stop to be able to look at what that thought, that image was. We react. Our computer mind is very rapid, but it's always processing all the information from the past and almost instantaneously makes a decision and acts, not based on the present, but by the past. And the body is certainly like this, because we do very little to keep the circulation going in the heart, in the cardiovascular system, all the different intricacies of shape-shifting of 50 to 100 trillion cells happens without any real awareness. We only know when there's a problem. When there's a problem, we feel sick. When there's a problem, we feel weak. When it's working really great, we feel strong and centered and grounded. We find out much later because our conscious mind is just the tip of the iceberg. I want you to look at this model that we have here called the iceberg model, because it shows here that our conscious mind is on the surface. Underneath the ocean of thought, there is subconscious and unconscious. And below that, there is what is known as the collective unconscious and the superconsciousness, that which is the source of everything. Some people call it spirit. Some people call it the implicate order in quantum physics, the unmanifest. Some people even call that God. That is what's prior to the formation of what we call physical existence. But when we understand that everything that exists is all different layers of that same one substance, then you begin to understand how we're all interconnected and everything is integrated. From the consciousness of those people we choose to have around us, to the consciousness that we're aware of, to all those things, 99%, that we're not aware of. And so the quantum embodiment method is asking you to look below the surface, to find out what's underneath and keeping those ideas in your mind, those beliefs, those decisions that might not be serving you to be able to be healthy and well. So let's focus that to heal, you must uncover the hidden roots of wrong-mindedness buried in the body. The body is the way back to wellness and sanity. The body is the unconscious mind. And how you create it, it comes from the decisions you make. We all have designer bodies, and we design it based upon the template that we create of our belief systems, of our mental constructs. And the job is to look at it, and observe it, and have someone who understands the intricacies of how things are put together and can create these different imbalances, pains and discomforts, and remove and purify. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't understand all computer programming and coding, and how with a bunch of zeros and ones, all that we see in computers and on our smartphones are done. I would look at it and it would be gibberish to me. However, someone who's trained in understanding how coding is done, where to place this, and how this can create this and this can create all those intricacies, they need training, understanding, expertise, experience, so that, oh, well, you just got a 0 and a 1 reversed, move this, and then all of a sudden something is functioning. And there are so many things like that, whether it's the car, whether it's electronic equipment, so many things where we don't understand, okay, the intricate workings below the surface. It's the same thing with the mind. Unless you have someone who has that experience to be able to see, then you're going to sit there and you're going to go and, oh, I think it's this, and I think it's this, and I think it's that. I love it when people come in to work with me on a private one-on-one basis. They all sit down and say, okay, you know, I've got this problem here, this conflict here, this depression, this anger, this sadness, and I know why. And they sit down and they tell me, well, I know exactly where it's coming from, and they proceed to then tell me what they blame it on, who they blame it on. And I just smile. I said, well, if you know the answers, then why do you still have the problem? Because if you know the answer of why something is working, you make the correction and then it starts working again. But if you make the correction and it doesn't start working, then that's not the right answer. And it seems that you've been using the same answer for the last 5, 10, 20, 30 years, and it's still not working. When are you going to sit there and acknowledge that you don't understand what the answer is? Because the way the mind works is, the ego says, seek, but do not find. Oh, look within, but only go to a level. Don't go underneath and look at the hidden roots. Because then we might have to admit we made a mistake. We did something wrong. It's not something external, it's internal. And I don't want to have to take responsibility for my condition. I much rather blame it on the people around me so that I can maintain my false identity that I'm special and they're not. I am superior and they're inferior, and they're the ones that's bringing me down. Well, you can live in delusion and pain and suffering and limitations. It's your life. But I have a feeling, because you're watching this, that there's a willingness to see things another way. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take willingness and strong conviction. If you don't have the determination to find another way, it's like taking your car to a mechanic who keeps saying to you, well, I just can't really find the reason. I don't think your car is ready to be fixed yet. Just keep leaving it here with me, running up some bills here with me, and eventually maybe the car will be ready. No, 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 no. You take the car and you find a new mechanic who knows how to fix the problem. Not somebody who drugs you up to make you think that the problem is fixed because you don't feel it anymore, you see? Because you know eventually, if your car isn't working, now you're in the middle of a highway at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's raining and the car breaks down because they never really got to the underlying cause. And now you're sitting out there for a few hours in the middle of the night, not very happy camper. Do you understand what I'm saying? You've got to have this kind of determination to look inside, to go back and examine those parts that are repressed and maybe use different tools that will open you to them. Hypnosis can be great, using regressions. Bioenergetics, very, very helpful. Formative psychology, quantum psychology, different types of cognitive ways of going inside to uncover the roots. You've got to use different techniques in order to access the different levels where these things can be buried. It's all about unload your baggage, your fear, your guilt, your worries. What's beneath them? What's the cause of them? And there's some really interesting ways to be able to do this. The healing key is this: the quality and quantity of underlying emotions and your willingness to look at it, to forgive and to correct the unloving beliefs, the repressed and buried in the body, determines the length of time to heal. How willing are you? How determined are you? Measure that for yourself. Are you at a 10? Yes, I'll do anything. Or you're at a 4 or 5? Yeah, that would be nice, and I'd like to. Because I'll tell you, in order to make something happen, you need to have strong, powerful, relentless intention, attention, consistency, determination to find another way and not accept anything until you make it there. Do not compromise with yourself, especially with your mental, emotional, or physical health. And we can do that through a wonderful technique that I share in quantum embodiment. An excellent tool that we use is something called a sonogram. We develop a deeper awareness of the unconscious mind-body through this sonogram. A sonogram is really literally looking at your body, how it feels, and being able to make a physical illustrated representation of it. When you look here at my diagram, you'll understand I was not an art major, but this is very similar to what I have individuals do for me, where they look at each part of their body and they show in black, in different ways, where they're feeling certain sensations. So if you look on the picture of the right, you can see there's a heaviness in the shoulders. They feel blocked in the throat. They feel a pressure on their forehead. They have these kind of black clouds around them that shroud their space. There always seems to be a knot in the stomach and no energy in their legs. And each one of these messages, feelings in the body, have a message. The legs say, no energy in them, I can't stand up for myself. My throat says, I'm afraid to express my truth. The heaviness in the back of my head is, I'm ashamed of what I've become. On my back, that heaviness is, my burden is too great to bear. In my heart, it says, no one is giving me what I need. The heaviness on top of my chest says, I barely breathe, I'm exhausted. And the overall story that this particular person was living in is, I live in a trance that nothing will ever change as I am unworthy. My mantra, which is a post-hypnotic suggestion, is, I will always be alone, as there is no one who cares about me. Emotionally, I'm apathetic, mentally in a dense fog, spiritually non-existent, and physically, I drag myself around, numbing myself with alcohol, medication, television, or self-pity. And I blame my parents for not giving me the love I needed as why I'm in this situation. What does your sonogram look like? Take some time to do this with you. Or if you're doing this as a training, as a practitioner, do this with your client. It will amaze you, because this is now the beginning that will guide you to the final step, which is to go deep inside and face it, embrace it, and trace it back to where it began, so it can be looked at again to lift up the trauma, to remove the defense mechanisms, to take off the sense of avoidance and allow it to be circulated, forgiven, released, and then to see it in a new perspective that sees it as a learning experience, as growth, as something that taught you something bigger, to see the bigger picture, to wake you up from those old trances and heal.